offer my thoughts and prayers to send them out in our condolences to the victims in this case. I'd also like to thank the Dooley County residents, especially the citizens in Byronville, Georgia. They have been very cooperative with us as we have conducted the various interviews and so forth in this case. Another thanks goes out to the Dooley County Sheriff's Office. From the very first start, the GBI agents and Dooley County personnel have been working side by side in this case. And then lastly, I want to offer a huge thanks to our GBI Crime Lab. We called them right after this case happened and told them the seriousness of what we had and what we were trying to figure out, and they made this a #1 priority, and we were able to get a lot of our evidence analyzed in a very quick and timely manner. But just to recap, what we've got here is very early on the morning of Thursday, January 25th, 3 innocent victims were gunned down in their front yard in Byronville, Georgia, as they were going about their daily routine. Dooley County Sheriff's deputies arrived on scene within minutes. The crime scene was secured and other law enforcement was requested along with the GBI. It was dark when we got there, so by the time it got to daylight, we actually did some additional searching and we found another body across the street. So basically the way we looked at this is we called this a homicide investigation on one side of the street and an unknown death investigation on the other. The crime scene was thoroughly worked by a number of crime scene specialists. We did multiple interviews that were done by GBI agents as well as Dooley County personnel. So please understand, a great deal of physical evidence was collected and submitted to our crime lab. When working complex cases, many factors will come into play in determining exactly what happened. Basically, what we have to do is we have to find the facts and then follow the facts. Based on the totality of all this, and when I say that, this is on the crime scene processing, the crime scene reconstruction, the autopsy, the victim and witness interviews, and especially the forensic analysis of our evidence, we have come to an investigative conclusion. So understand, a lot of thought has gone into this conclusion. Our conclusion is on Thursday, January 25th, Willie James Morrell fired 5 rounds from a .30 caliber rifle, striking Priscilla Adams, a 17-year-old teenager, and a 17-month-old, killing Adams and the infant and critically wounding the teenager. Morrell then walked back across the street to his backyard where he fired that weapon one more time, taking his own life. Now again, these are our investigative conclusions, and what I'd like to say is as we are submitting all of our reports, all of this will be compiled and put in a criminal investigative file, and it will be submitted to District Attorney Brad Rigby for his consideration. Do you have any questions or concerns?
What maybe led you to, concluding this? I mean, what was
Again, it was a totality of everything. When you look at the crime scene, we had 3 different crime scene specialists on scene looking at it. We had a number of agents and deputies and county investigators conducting interviews. So based on our training and experience, and then the physical evidence. And one thing I will say to elaborate a little bit more is the rifle was found right next to or within arm's reach of Morrell in his backyard. The crime lab looked at the shell casings that we collected on one side of the street as well as the single round that we found in Morrell's backyard. All those were forensically analyzed and they were all fired from the same weapon. Another thing that was done is Todd Crosby over here is one of our crime scene specialists. He's now my ASAC, but he still has the working knowledge of being a crime scene for a number of years. He actually is the one that physically processed that rifle for 3 different types of evidence. He looked for fingerprint evidence, blood evidence, and then touch DNA, which is like the skin cells coming off the hand. So he very meticulously looked at that rifle and processed that, and those are the items when went to the lab that we have beyond a reasonable doubt. We know the shell casings match up through the firearms evidence, but then through DNA analysis, we know that Morrell's DNA was on that rifle.
I know you all worked with bullet reconstruction as well. Did that leave you any more evidence after looking at that as well?
Again, we have finished our crime scene with that, and we've taken all that into consideration into drawing this investigative conclusion.
Now, I mean, was there any sort of confrontation between these two that has come about in the?
Again, the why. We would like to know the why. Sometimes we get that when we're working cases, but in this case, the why is with Mr. Morrell, and unfortunately, that's no longer able for us to get to.
Have you discovered in your investigation anything as to what led to his train of thought or what led up to the shooting?
We have conducted a number of interviews in the county. Again, we're trying to reach to the why, but again, we have to find the facts and follow the facts. There's a lot of theories that are going around in the community, but again, we have to stick to the facts and to the evidence.
So it was found that Morrell had turned the gun on himself?
Yes.
Okay.
Now, if Sheriff Peavy would like to offer any other comments?
I would just like to say, thank you to everybody from GBI to the people in the community. Our office, investigators, patrolmen, we've had 20, 25 people at one time working on this. We got to a point where it was, solely in the lab's hands. And, that's something way out of the realm of what we do. And we have to go with facts. Right now, my job is going to do all I can to help Byronville heal, help Dooley County heal, whatever we can do to make that happen. But, there's no good ending to this story. And we just have to follow the facts right now, as Agent Rickson said. But anything, anybody here, we still, we're there. We'll respond. We'll see what we can, track down. Anything that may give us a why. I'll be constantly in touch with Agent Rickson and District Attorney Rigby. So, but thank the community for all their support and understanding, patience. But we just got to rebuild Byronville and Dooley County. So.
Any updates about the girl that was in the hospital? Is she okay? Is she doing?
Yes, ma'am. She came home. I'm gonna let Agent Rickson explain her condition now, but I think she's doing well.
Yeah, what we do know, she was released just a couple of days later, and she's staying with a family relative here in this county.
Okay.
Was she able to help in determining that, other than the physical evidence you mentioned, was she, any conversations with her? Did
We
she
interviewed
identify
her a number of times in this investigation, and she did give us some information. Again, the why is what we would really like to know here, and sometimes we get it and sometimes we don't.
This might be a question for the sheriff. Has there ever been a history of conflict or confrontation at either of these houses?
Between the two, is that what you're
Yes.
asking? No, sir, not that I'm aware of.
But there was history with the one house where the mother and the baby were killed, right?
Yes, ma'am. There has been history there before, but
Can you elaborate on that?
well, there's been some calls where disturbances, and our deputies would answer and do reports, but nothing as far as in between, from Mr. Morrell's residence to there. No, I don't know of anything, even in our file, that ever would go back to any confrontation there.
Sheriff, how will this news impact your county? What would you think? And will this change anything in your office moving forward?
That's a good question. I don't know how it's going to affect them. I know some things are very hard to believe. We have to keep moving forward. We have to keep moving forward regardless of, we're going to be there for them. Let me just say we're going to be there for them. He'll pick up the pieces. I don't know how they're going to react at this time. It's just a hard thing to swallow, especially with, especially family. I'm sure it's going to be very difficult. But it is, at this point, like I say, based on what crime lab results are, and that's way out of my league on something like that. But we're going to be there to help them do whatever they need us to do.
Thank you.